Hello everyone! Welcome back to the Casino Co YouTube channel. And with Casino Co's 4-year birthday just around the corner on September 3rd, I'd figure that now would be a great time to make another The History of Casino Co video. During the last episode, we primarily talked about the end of my 7th grade year, with the creation of the insurance card being an absolute flop, along with the first Big Shot Awards and the creation of one of my best novels, Just a Story, which by the way you can listen to on the Casino Co YouTube channel. In this chapter, we're going to be talking about the production hell of Goldie Goes to Mexico, along with how the newly became 7th graders reacted to having Casino Co as a part of their daily lives. Also, we're going to talk about how I made some more of the deals a little bit more mainstream in order to appeal to a new audience. So without a further ado, let's get started with the History of Casino Co, Chapter 3, Fresh Off the Press. Originally, I had planned to work on Goldie Goes to Mexico before the Lost Flower novel. However, due to circumstances, I wasn't able to start working on Goldie Goes to Mexico until 2 weeks before my summer break was over. So I had time on my hands. Why not work on the Lost Flower novel, which I had planned to release second quarter of my 8th grade year. So I started work on the Lost Flower. The writing experience for the Lost Flower was pretty meh. It wasn't a memorable experience for me. I think I just kind of cranked it out. The Lost Flower was a novel about a boy named Scott and a certain flowery companion who's totally not based off of Flowey, going on adventures through alternate universes called the Dark Realms, where they'd fight an assortment of different creatures. I remember this is the first time my buddy Pondhopper, go subscribe to his YouTube channel, by the way, Pondhopper765 I think it's called, I don't know. He does fishing YouTube videos and great guy. Anyways, he was my editor at the time for my novels. And I remember he said that during his editing process, he basically had to rewrite the entire book for me. Says something about the grammatical structure of the Lost Flower a lot, I think. I remember during the Lost Flower, I was kind of just rushing through it a little bit just to get it done. Yeah, I remember I didn't reread it after I finished writing it. I kind of just immediately sent it to the editor, when back with Just a Story, I would at least reread it over to make sure it wasn't a complete grammatical mess. But this time I just sent it straight to Pondhopper, and he wasn't too happy about that. So that's a fond memory, I guess, I have from the Lost Flower. Another pain in the rear for me during my summer break was the creation of Goldie Goes to Mexico. As I had mentioned, I wanted to start work on it during the beginning of my summer break. However, I had to work on it literally 2 weeks before school started due to a certain dinosaur action figure. The Goldie the Casino Raptor stories were stories created with dinosaur action figure photography, obviously. Now, admittedly, it wasn't good photography with it all being in my bedroom, but I made use of what I had with it. And for Goldie Goes to Mexico, I had planned to make an entire set of a deserty area with parchment paper and other supplies. I had scheduled for that series the main villain to be the Dominion Giganotosaurus, because during that time, Jurassic World Dominion was going to come out, and the Giganotosaurus was the hot new dinosaur that was supposed to be in that movie. I heard sources somewhere saying that it was supposed to come out on July 22nd. However, those sources were horribly incorrect. And I went to Collect Jurassic's website, I remember, and left a comment crashing out about how I was stressing out because we needed to get this comic book series done. But yet, the dinosaur I needed for the comic book series hadn't come out yet. So, and I think it was Collect Jurassic himself who responded to it, but originally I thought it was like some random Joe Smo, but they said, dude, just calm down and wait like the rest of us, alright? I couldn't wait. I had the comic book series to get done. So I went to eBay and got this guy for $285. Anyways, you can imagine how unhappy I am to see this thing for like $5 at Walmart now. Anyways, Goldie Goes to Mexico. I was also put on strict deadlines for the completion of Goldie Goes to Mexico as well, since my parents wanted to do something with the room in which I was doing a photo shoot in for Goldie Goes to Mexico. I had half the room taken up by desert scenery and stuff, and my mom comes up in there and she's like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm rearranging your room next week, so make sure to have all this cleaned up by then. So now I had to wait for Big Dinosaur to come in through eBay that I spent $265 on. Then I had to have the whole comic book series, whole 7 episodes of Goldie the Casino Raptor done in a week. Third, I had to have it ready to go, freshly edited and printed by the second week of school, which was, 3 weeks around the corner. So Goldie Goes to Mexico was a bit of a production hell experience for me. Now, the first week of my 8th grade year, and Casino Co. The first quarter I did successfully release Goldie Goes to Mexico. Whew, that was stressful. Now, I just needed to run Casino Co. I released a newsletter updating the audience and the customers on what was going to be changing with the Casino Co. company, mainly introducing new deals such as the mystery packs, which would come with a mystery amount of casino bucks and a little mystery card pack that had a character name on it, a little short story, and a whole bunch of other little things in it to they're like collector cards. And also I announced the creation of the cylinder. The cylinder had 20 stacks of casino bucks, 3 stacks of golden casino bucks, and like a stack of ones for some reason. I don't know why. The ones were worth like 1 casino buck, but all casino bucks were worth 500, so you really couldn't use anything with the 1 casino buck. So that was weird. I included that with the cylinder. But I also used it to announce that I had started work on some other creations like the Lost Flower, Blue, and Justice Story 2, Goldie and the 7 Stars, which you'll probably hear me talk about in the next chapters of the history of Casino Co. And I just used this letter as a way to introduce all the newcomers from 7th grade to Casino Co. and what we're all about and how we do with business dealings. During this first and second week of Casino Co., we received enormous support from the 7th graders, along with the 8th graders too, just a little bit, sure. Also, around this time, I introduced a new way to get junk from the catalog. I had junk for bucks, obviously, which is just the basic transactional system where you have a fixed price and you buy that item for the fixed price. Now I introduced the auction house. The auction house was a bid where you could place your bid on an item, and whoever had the highest bid by the end of the week would receive that item the next week. It was a successful system and really worked out well, which is why during my second quarter and third quarter, it would end up replacing junk for bucks. However, for now, during first quarter, we were chilling with junk for bucks, and we were chilling with the auction house. So those two things worked pretty well together. The auction house was primarily just used to sell high-end expensive items. The first item I sold on the auction house was the Zoomer Indominus Rex, which I could have probably sold on eBay and gotten a lot more. But yeah. Around this time, I also updated the sale prices for casino bucks so that when they would go on sale, they wouldn't be like ridiculously cheap anymore. Sure, they were still cheaper than their normal prices, but they weren't like, we weren't losing money on sales anymore. During the sales back in 7th grade, we would sell a suitcase for $2, which, to remind you all, a suitcase had 15 stacks of casino bucks in it, and one stack had 7 casino bucks, and one casino buck was worth 500. So yeah, we would sell a suitcase for $2, 2 stacks of casino bucks for like 50 cents, and 1 stack of casino bucks for 25 cents. Now for the sale prices, we were selling 2 stacks of casino bucks for $2, 1 stack of casino bucks was still 25 cents. And then the suitcase was now $4. So, it was $2 up in price. So, it wasn't like ridiculously expensive anymore. I mean, ridiculously cheap to the point we were losing money on it. Sorry, it wasn't ridiculously expensive when it would go on sale. Stepping aside from Casino Co. and its history for a minute, my 8th grade year would mark the beginning of my morning announcements career. I now go to a school called Verado High School, and every Friday I get to do the morning announcements. I didn't just get this gig out of nowhere. I've been doing it for a few years beforehand. During my 8th grade year, I would do them every day. And it was originally they would have a different student do it every day. However, the 3rd graders did a petition to have me be the only one to do the morning announcements. So every day I would do the morning announcements at Trinity, and that would kick off a long-lasting announcements career for me that would eventually get me a big gig at Verado High School, where there are more than 3,000 students who hear my voice every Friday. Now, remember the insurance card from my 7th grade year? Yeah, that was a pretty bad deal. So, in order to make up for the insurance card's failure, we need to make sure that we made a membership that was much better than the insurance card. And behold the creation of 3 new memberships in its place. The library membership, Casino Co Plus, and the Fidelity membership. Starting off with the library membership. The library membership initially costed $3 to participate in, and then 1,500 casino bucks every week to renew. The library membership had a different assortment of dinosaur books for you to rent to your pleasure. Nobody got this deal. The next deal is the Fidelity membership. The Fidelity membership was a way for people to collect more Golden Casino bucks. Golden Casino bucks being the tickets you need to get into tournaments and just being rarer versions of casino bucks. For the Fidelity membership, it cost $4 initially and then 45 cents per week. With the Fidelity membership, you'd get 1 Golden Casino buck every day you were at school, which was a really good deal because to get a stack of Golden Casino bucks, it cost you $6. However, the membership only costs you $4, and that's already 5 Golden Casino bucks. That's $2 cheaper than getting a stack of them. Now, if you were to pay 45 cents twice to renew it weekly, you would get 8 more Golden Casino bucks than you would by buying just a stack of Golden Casino bucks, making it a really good deal. Barely anyone bought the deal though. I don't think it was marketed as heavily as the next one, Casino Co Plus. For Casino Co Plus, it initially cost $5 and then $1 every month to continue the membership. If you chose to opt out of the membership, you'd have to pay $5 again to rejoin. For what you would receive for Casino Co Plus's membership is exclusive deals and a whole bunch of other stuff that would get added later down the year. But the main thing Casino Co Plus was known for was free casino bucks every week. you would get in these little things I called mystery packs, we would have these little character packs included with the name of a character, what story they were from, and a whole bunch of other things like age and whatnot, height, you know. But yeah, they came with a little story inside of them. Little disclaimer, and then they had a little like game at the end of it for fun. But yeah, also in these mystery packs were also casino books. We had different rarities of mystery packs. For a common pack, you'd get like 1 stack of casino books. For a rare pack, it's like more casino books, and then they were super legendary, then tournament level. To get a tournament level pack, you had to do a tournament, obviously, which you got into by using golden casino bucks. But yeah, obviously you can tell the ranking system with how many casino bucks you get, and the rarity of the character card you'd get with it was highly based off of Jurassic World, the game's rarity system. But yeah, the Casino Co. Plus membership promised exclusive deals for casino bucks on the catalog, cheaper prices, and exclusive stuff for junk for bucks. I wish I would have taken advantage of this more, because if I had more stuff locked under Casino Co. Plus only, I probably could have sold more memberships for Casino Co. Plus. But what's it called? I just didn't lock anything behind Casino Co. Plus, so, you know, there's really not any exclusive deals on the catalog for Casino Co. Plus. However, you still get free casino bucks every week. Also, during the first quarter of my 8th grade year, we would introduce multiple indie projects to the catalog. Now, what's an indie project? An indie project is a person outside of the Casino Co. company selling their books on the catalog. The first indie project that would get greenlit to go on the catalog would be Zeki's House of Wonders. I remember the book was a good book, had a solid plot, and was a really interesting read. But yeah, that would be the first indie project to go on the catalog, which would pave the way for multiple other indie projects to go on in there as well. Now, last year around Halloween, we threw a bunch of tournaments and stuff and made a Halloween special with Goldie the Casino Raptor. That ended up becoming one of my best-selling comics of all time. People loved the Halloween special. However, this year, Halloween was about to roll around, and I needed to make a sequel to Goldie's Halloween special. Now, this year, during my 8th grade year, I decided to do a spin on Five Nights at Freddy's, where Springtrap invaded the Indoraptor's casino to steal all of Goldie's Halloween candy, and Goldie had to play a game of Five Nights at Freddy's in order to keep Springtrap away from his candy. The comic did alright. Sure, it sold lots because it was a sequel to the acclaimed Halloween special. However, around this time, something did much better than the comics. That's right, the candy. We sold candy, because we just had all this leftover Halloween candy lying around, for 1 casino bucks, like 500, and people could buy lots of it if they wanted to. So yeah, we got a lot of sales off of candy around this time for Halloween. And then, of course, we did the whole tournament shtick with 3 tournaments with grand prizes and other prizes like that. So that was a fun Halloween during my 8th grade year, with tons of attractions and other little things such as that done by Casino Co. I might have pointed this out in an earlier video, but on the back of each of the casino bucks, we have a little stamp that says, "You just got coconut mauled." Now, why we have this stamp is because, well, someone copied the casino bucks. And this is when a whole bunch of disaster struck. There was rumor going around in the 8th grade and 7th grade classroom that someone was copying casino bucks and selling them for a cheaper price than me. This would end up being one of the 7th graders, and around this time is when we issued our first permanent ban. Now, what the permanent bans were is they were banishments for people from doing business with the company or dealing with casino bucks. They were signed by the teacher, and they were signed by me and Pond Hopper, so that, the copying of casino bucks and the stealing from the house wouldn't continue. The stamp on the back of it stopped him from copying casino books, because if you just put them down on top of a printer, you can just copy a lot of them. And the stamp on the back of it made it so that people can't copy them anymore, because you can only copy one side at a time. So that's a little invention I did back then to get people to stop copying casino books for that, and that was just a stressful situation with the theft of casino bucks. Now, sadly, I don't have the stamp that says "you just got coconut mauled" anymore. That was a funny story from my freshman year when my buddy Train Boys 1 locked the stamp somehow, and me, being me, thought it would be the smartest of ideas to slam the stamp down on the table to see if that would fix it. Long story short, the stamp exploded everywhere and it no longer works. Now, it was time for the end of the first quarter of my 8th grade year, which means it was time for another Big Shot Awards. Now, a reminder on the Big Shot Awards was that they were a list of awards for our greatest supporters. We had the small shot, the big shots, and the biggest shots. The biggest shots were like the greatest supporters, the big shot were good supporters, and the small shots did small things in between there that would get them invited to the Big Shot Awards. However, this year, the Big Shot Awards would be much bigger than last year's Big Shot Awards. We would invite people from different classes to come over to the 8th grade homeroom, which is where the Big Shot Awards would be hosted. And we'd have big, tall bottles of Martinelli's apple ciders. And my mother, being the amazing person that she is, made us these little Casino Co. glasses. Just look at how official this looks. Isn't this just glorious? But yeah, then we had little cookies, and everyone would be comfortable and sit there as they waited for everyone to receive their Big Shot Awards. The Big Shot Awards were always fun. People got, awarded for their participation in the company. They got to drink nice beverages and eat nice cookies. And it was overall just very fun experience. The Big Shot Awards were awesome. They were awesome. So yeah, that's going to have to wrap it up for the History of Casino Co. Chapter 3, fresh off the press. In this episode, we talked about the Lost Flowers production, Goldie Goes to Mexico's production hell, changes in the company, the introduction to my announcements career, the 7th graders' reaction to the company, new deals and different prices, introduction to indie projects, Goldie's second Halloween special, candy being a bestseller during the Halloween week, and our first permanent banishment. And of course, the first actual Big Shot Awards, which was awesome. So yeah, thank you for watching all the way through, and please make sure to like and subscribe so that I can reach 1,000 subscribers before I die of... Oh, hold on. I'm already at 1,000 subscribers. Like and subscribe so I can reach 10,000 subscribers. Bye-bye.